All right, so it is now 8 a.m. and my intraday trading session is going to begin. As promised, I'm going to be showcasing everything that I do in an unusual intraday session where I trade the US 30 and the NASDAQ. Usually during the first 30 minutes of my session, I prepare my charts, look at the levels, take a look at the calendar, and really see what has been going on throughout the week and looking a bit at the price action. Now, before we dive into everything of that, let's take a look at the plan that I'm going to be following today. Now, I'm not going to go in depth. I just want to make sure that you understand the different points that I'm going to be following. So, first off, you can see that I have everything pretty much very much detailed, because that's going to make my decision-making process a lot easier from trading the news. What do I do when key news is scheduled and I'm potentially looking to take a trade? Everything is covered, so I have the minimum inputs or decision-making that I need to have in a given session, from correlation, trading news, trade management, the setups that I trade. You can see them here. The risk management that I'm going to be applying, how am I going to be mapping my markets, and obviously the timing as well. So going right back to the charts before we dive into the levels, because that's the very first thing that I do, let's take a look at the calendar. So the only thing that's really scheduled for today is some USD news, PCE price index. They're expecting positive data, which may mean that we're going to have a green day, but that's not something that I use to really base my analysis off of. It's just to give me some context into what to expect, when I'm going to be expecting volatility and things of that nature, because it's in about 30 minutes and I need to know that there's key news to be released. So as usual, going to be trading my two markets, and let's start with the market mapping. So I start off with my daily chart. I'm looking at the daily market. So overall, obviously, we're pretty bullish, but that's nothing that's really going to influence my decision. So in terms of understanding my daily levels, I think it's obvious that we do have a daily level here that I need to be paying close attention to. We have relative equal lows. That could be interesting. We have a high here as well, and I'm only looking to denote the levels that are likely to be tapped within my session. So as I mentioned in my previous video, as an example, if we talk about this swing low, that's not going to be relevant in today's session, because the probability of seeing a candle that goes this far down is very slim. So let's keep these daily levels for now. The upper level lining up with ATR is pretty interesting, because it's usually a great area to be looking for mean reversion. So it could be a good idea to be looking for rate rejection break, but that's not something that I want to define as of now, because I really need more information. Besides these two levels, we obviously have a high here and a low here. This low coincidentally fills the fair value gap, so this is a fair value gap closure level. And that's about it on the daily, really. I don't need to do anything else. That's what I'm going to stick with for now. Let's jump into the 30 minutes, and this is where we really get into the important piece of the puzzle. So we're overall moving up, which is good to see. And we have a fair value gap closure level right here. And my first initial thought is, well, I call it fair value gap closure or previous structure, just if you're confused looking at the right hand side of the screen. And the important thing here is that if we do break and close above it, there's a probability that we could go tap into the next fair value gap closure. Now, if we measure this range, this is really nothing too big, but depending on how it sets up, there might be a chance for me to enter a long position above this level. We're going to leave that for now there. We obviously have the major swing high here just beyond ATR, which if we do see the market moving up, breaking above, closing below, breaking structure lower, then I would be looking to sell right here if this scenario sets up. So you can see that I'm always pre-planning what I want to see beforehand, so that when the time comes to execute a trade, my second guessing isn't really that significant. So moving on, levels to the downside, what do we have first? Before we do that, actually, let me make sure that this is labeled correctly. And let's try and see what we can do. Now, there's not much structure to base our levels off of, because as I said, we've been moving up. We do have a gap that remains open, if I'm not mistaken. Let's actually see this. The low of this candle is, if we look at the top of the screen, is 49s, and the high of this candle is 16s. Okay, so there is a tiny gap here. That is interesting to see. And yeah, let's carry on with the analysis. So we do have a level here. I wouldn't consider this a swing low or anything like that, but this one is interesting. So there's a chance here that we could see price tap into this level. If we do get signs in the lower time frame that we're going to be rejecting here, we could look to play a long position from here all the way up here. So yeah, that's the US 30 as of now. Are there more levels that I need to pay close attention to? More than likely, yes. This swing low stands out to me. We could see price raiding that and accepting or even rejecting, and that's why I'm labeling this as raid, so I'm prepared for it if it does happen. And trying to see more levels that are going to be relevant in today's price action. There's a level here as well. I like the way that it lines up with these previous highs here, so I'm gonna leave it for now. Just so you know, just because there is a level, it doesn't mean that I will execute a trade if the time comes. It's just for me to prepare and know where are the key areas that I want to potentially be doing business at. So yeah, looking for buys above this upper level here is actually a lot more preferred, because the range that we have is a lot bigger. We could expect the market to fill this entire range, and that's something that I would prefer over this one. But if we do start rejecting that area, then yes, we could see the market push lower. So that's why I'm keeping both levels there. So yeah, that's my analysis pretty much done for the day. I mean, yes, swing low here is relevant as well. We're going to be labeling that now, and that's about it really. It's not complicated. I'm simply looking at areas where I would potentially be looking to do business at, and everything else is just waiting for confirmations on the 1 minute and knowing what I need to see pretty much. So before we move on to the NASDAQ, let me make sure that I know the session that I need to be trading. The longest I will stay is 11 a.m. but that isn't always the case, because I take 2 trades per day max, and if I happen to take 2 trades, let's say at 10 a.m., then there's no point in me looking at the markets for another hour. So this is just my maximum threshold. It doesn't mean that that's going to get respected in that regard. So that's my US 30 analysis done. I don't think I need to do anything else. Just remember that I do update these levels and what I expect from them as the market moves, but this is what I'm content with for now. Let's move on to the NASDAQ and let's go through the exact same process. So the NASDAQ is sitting over here, looking to my left hand side. That's great. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to denote is this level, which is my daily level. Once again, looking for areas that are highly likely to be tapped during my session, and this is one of them. So another level that stands out to me is this over here. You can see that we have lows here, fair value gap closure. There's a high degree of probability that when we encounter this level 19s, we're gonna see a rejection over there, so I want to know that. That's done for the daily pretty much. Remember that this is a big significant level where we could expect price to sort of turn around. Now, this market is looking quite similar. The very first thing that I wanted to note is this swing high, because there's a lot of business to be doing above and below it as we encounter it, and that's labeled there. We do have a swing low here that I like, where I could expect, if the market does move lower through the level, accept beyond it with multiple candles, pull back with space, I might look to short this area. Now, if I do, where am I going to target? Well, this low here stands out because it's in line with these highs, and that would be an interesting area. that we could see the market move into. Once again, I'm not really looking for home runs, because if I'm trading every day, then I cannot expect the market to move really, really smoothly in one direction in any given single day. So that is why my objectives are always really, really realistic. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary to expect the market, that if we do accept below this low, to move into this area. Another key area for me to do business at, once again, we have a gap here that might want to be filled, but that's not really too significant. Now, this high here could be a potential area to be looking longs above, but because of the wicks on the left hand side and the fair value gap closure, it is a lot better for me if I wait for a closure above this high instead, which I'm going to label as previous structure. So yeah, that is sort of that, and let me quickly think if there is anything regarding levels that I need to denote, because once again, I'm doing this raw in front of you and I've not prepared anything. So this is my exact process that I go through every day when I'm looking to intraday trade my markets. Let's go through this rather quickly. We have a level there too, but that's not too convincing. Just gonna leave it at that, because this would be the ideal target. If we do break and close above this level 80s, then I can expect the market to move into 137s. Now, if we do break above or reject there, then there's a lot of business to be doing, and there's quite a bit of space to move to the upside. Now, that would be well beyond the ATR. For those who don't know, this is on average how much the market has moved in the past 20 days. So I'm not going to be expecting to really breach that far and beyond. Although it could happen, probability dictates that it won't happen. But as traders, we know that we need to be prepared for anything and everything, and we need to make sure that we adapt. So we have 15 minutes for the news. We have 15 minutes for NYSE. So we're gonna wait and see what happens. Actually, not 15 minutes for NYSE, but 15 minutes for the news instead. Which is, once again, very, very important. Everything is labeled, everything is prepared. It's just now a matter of time of waiting for the market to set up the way that we want to set up. If nothing happens, then I will not execute a trade, because, well, I've been trading long enough to know that if my edge is not present, then I don't have any business to be doing. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be cutting certain parts of the video where nothing is happening, like right now, because there's no point in me, well, staring at a chart without doing anything. I much rather showcase a little bit of the action, but that's not something that I'm sure of as of now, so I'm just gonna keep going. We see that the market is moving lower now. Once again, we're patiently waiting for our areas. And this is what a lot of people get wrong, which is they're completely unable to just wait for what they need to see. And yeah, for me, it's fine. It's not a big deal. If I have to sit here for 2 hours and not get anything, then oh well, so be it. But for the most part, I do end up getting trades, whether they're wins or losses. That's out of my control. But overall, I try really hard to make sure that my risk is properly configured, that my trades are properly taken, and that everything is correctly journaled. So yeah, this is what we're gonna be working with. Let's see over here. Now, what do I think is gonna set up first? In all honesty, I don't know, but I'm prepared for both. Now, this level here is interesting, and we can just examine this on the lower time frame for educational purposes. You can see that we've purged this high. We're seeing a bit of a change in the state of delivery, but this wouldn't be anything that would interest me too much in terms of looking for a trade, right? Yes, there's sort of a shift here. You can see that we've broken below the previous structure point, but the level here is not really good for me to trade, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people looking to take this trade. Well, it could work, it could not work, but that's not my trade. Even though there's a trade here to be going short, that's not my type of trade, and that's what makes my edge profitable. in combination with obviously a lot of other things. But yeah, looking at the price action, the market has been moving very aggressively. It is a Friday, so I don't expect too much. I'm not gonna expect that we're gonna see a huge bullish run, but I'm prepared for it if it does happen. Now remember that key news is to be released in about 12 minutes. So even if there was a trade, I wouldn't be taking it because of the news rule. So if you remember and you look at my plan over here, you see that let me showcase this. I do not take a trade if there's less than 50 minutes for the release, unless I'm already in a trade. In that case, I would hold through the news. But that's something that I do, which you don't have to. It's based on statistics, based on research, and based on how I do and perform my trading. So that's exactly what we're going to be waiting for. Now, there should be some action and some volatility injected in the market in about 11 minutes now, and I want to see what's going to happen with that. So yeah, I'm going to cut now. I'm going to keep recording when action appears, and we're going to see the raw session completed. Obviously, I'm still expecting trades. It is very, very early, but as of now, there's nothing for me to do. I'm going to carry on recording with the release to see if it does bring any volatility, and we're going to keep going from there. It is now 8:30. News have just released. Let's take a look at the numbers, and we do see that what was forecasted is exactly what we got. So there shouldn't be too much of an impact. Although we're seeing the NASDAQ push higher. Let's take a look at the US 30. It is also pushing higher. Let's see over here. Let's investigate the 1 minute. Okay, so this is the candle. We do see a sharp rejection. At this point, with this rejection, if we do rate this low, then I would be 100% willing to short below this area. But as of now, we're waiting for the news to settle a bit. Remember that I need to wait 15 minutes till after the news before I can execute any sort of trade. So I'm not in a rush to do anything. Let's just calmly watch this. Looks like the US 30 is a bit ahead here with the rejection. This range right here isn't really that good. It's not really that big. But it could be possible to trade if we do get, well, what I want to see, which you're going to see. But just to give you a bit of a spoiler, all I need to see is multiple candles closing beyond this level with a thrust candle appearing here for the market to pull back into this area to try and go short, placing my stop beyond the thrust and trading from this area to this area. And that's what I do every time I trade my intraday strategy, which is pretty much most of my, well, days of the week. And let's keep watching. Looks like we do not have a clear direction just yet. We are seeing the rejection, as I mentioned. We haven't really tapped into the upper level, but that's not really too concerning. Now, if both happen to set up, I will obviously choose one to trade instead of the two, and it's probably going to be the NASDAQ just because the range is a little bit cleaner in my opinion. So yeah, this could be a trade that sets up maybe in the next 30 minutes or so. If this candle does follow through and we do start breaking below this low, then I would be looking to short below this low into this level right here. But as I said, nothing is decided, and we're gonna need to keep on waiting. We still have a lot of time, and I do expect that I can potentially get some trades today. Just gonna keep watching. This is what I usually do. Once again, I'm not trying to do anything fancy. I'm showing you my exact process of trading, and sometimes trading involves a lot of waiting. And that's actually an essential skill that you need to have, and patience is what you need at this point, at least for the way that I trade my scalping strategy. For my swing trading strategy is a lot easier because I just simply look at the market every time the daily candle closes, and I can simply say, okay, is there anything for me to do the next day? If the answer is yes, then I will place some limit orders. If the answer is no, then I just have to wait for the next day. But that is a problem for most people because they don't have the patience to wait. Now, keep in mind that the market is getting closer to the level. Doesn't necessarily mean that I will do any business because of the range. As we spoke about, the range from this area to the next, it's not really too big, although it is technically possible to potentially see something. The market is in a bit of indecision. I can assure you that there's a lot of people taking trades here, trying to anticipate certain things, but for the way that I do trade and I do my things, well, there is no point in trying to actively engage with the market right now. I do like this rejection a lot. Once again, I'm just simply using easy to understand principles such as levels, swing lows, swing highs, fair value gap closures, and stuff like that to look to potentially take trades. So monitoring the 1 minute, we still have a lot of time. The market is slowly but surely making its way into the lower end of the range. If we do start seeing a break below this area, guys, I will be looking to take trades. Remember that I'm not worried about the outcome. I'm more so worried about executing my process well, because what if, as an example, if my trades fail today, then that is just part of doing business. No strategy is going to win you 100% of the time. And that's just the way the business works and why it is so important that you're able to manage your risk effectively. So we're going to keep watching this market because it's slowly but surely making its way lower. Let's investigate the US 30 as well. There's specific things that I need to see below this line, and if I don't see them, then I will not execute any trades. I'm going to be trading on my one of my challenges account that I've pulled up on my other screen. My MT5 is currently open, and yeah, making sure that everything is set up. Let's go to the 30 minutes. Let's make sure that this is done effectively. Right over here. Let's do this here. Let's go back to 30 minutes. So yeah, the market is slowly but surely making its way. Let's put this a bit to the side. And yeah, we're just gonna be waiting for what we need to see. Let me make sure this is still recording fine. I don't want to cut right now because I can sense that there's some potential action coming in. But this is the important part. This is what I really want you guys to see, which is the waiting. Trading involves a lot of waiting. But yeah, if the market starts pulling back now, then I will cut and get back to the recording when some more action is taking place. Market is slowly pushing lower. This is US 30. Let's investigate the 1 minute. I like the way the market is reaching the area, which is also an important part of my edge. And what I want to see is the market break through this with aggression. I don't want to see the market do this, which is to say the market slowly but surely moving lower, drifting, and not really clearing the level with confidence, which is what I need to see to execute my edge. So, as I mentioned, even if the market gets to my level, that doesn't mean that I'm guaranteed to take a trade. Okay, it's just that I need to know that, well, be careful, pay attention, because we're reaching into the area you plan to do business at. This would be let's go to the 30 minute. This would be a previous structure acceptance trade for me. Remember that I trade 4 setups: previous structure acceptance, rejection, raid acceptance, and raid rejection break. They're very similar. They just happen to set up at different types of levels. So that's why I'm labeling them differently. But they all follow the same principle of seeing a thrust candle, seeing the market close beyond levels with confidence, and multiple candles into a pullback with space. All of my setups follow the same principle. That is why it's easy for me to keep all of them in mind, because they're not too different in terms of how they look. to each other. They're more so different in terms of the location where they set up. That's sort of what makes the difference for me. So yeah, I'm gonna cut now. When the market reaches any of the levels of interest or when I see some more action happening, then we'll get back to the recording. Alright, so a few minutes have passed. The market is getting closer to the level. I do like the way we're encountering it, as I mentioned, but I do want to see the market push through, accept with space, and if it does, then I would be looking to sell this low right here. I'm starting to frame my trade. Hold on, guys. Once again, it is not guaranteed, but my stop loss would be there. My take profit would be here. But I do need to see, you see? That's what's so important. These levels usually get reactions like this. Now, could I look for a long here? Well, technically yes, but I much rather not do it right now. And the reason why is because it is a bit too messy in terms of the price action that it looks. If it had extended beyond the push, if it had moved more cleanly, then it would have been easier. But we need to wait because not everything is set. Let's check the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is also pushing lower. We do have another opportunity there. And the NASDAQ opportunity, if I'm being honest, I like more. Once again, you have to follow the narrative of the story that we're seeing. In the US 30, we've pretty much rejected the fair value gap closure. We're seeing a sharp rejection after the news release, and we're starting to see a push lower. Now, we haven't yet closed beyond the level. And this level that I initially wanted to sell at is no longer valid. Why? Because we've already tapped and rejected it. Now, if I do see the market run without me, then, well, it wouldn't be the first time, okay? It's not like I've seen this before. This is just part of doing business. And sometimes, even though you have the correct idea, the market will just go without you. And you need to be okay with it because, once again, that's just the price of doing business. But I'm paying close attention because if we do push through this and accept, although my range will be smaller because we're extending beyond it, would still be an optimal opportunity. Now the NASDAQ is struggling a little bit more, but the US 30 is showing clear signs in my opinion. Okay, so now we've closed once. We haven't really closed twice, which is what I need to see. And we could look to set up the trade like this and move the stop loss here. But that's not something that I'm convinced of. I need to see the market close beyond multiple times, as I said, which ideally is 2 or more. But with these rejections here, let's take a look at the 30 minutes. This would be a previous structure acceptance trade. And regardless of the outcome, it is one that is typical of my trading. Now, I could expect the market to test these levels here, which is where I'm going to be looking to enter. So I'm going to structure my trade like this. And as the candle closes, I'm going to look to place the trade. Okay, so quickly open my platform. Let's go into 1 minute. Let's place our limit order with the appropriate size. Sell limit, stop loss is in place, and now we just wait and see if we're going to get a fill. This is a previous structure acceptance trade. This is part of my plan. Once again, whether it works or not is just the nature of doing business, but I'm happy with the way the market is setting up. I do expect further follow through, and if we can get that pullback, then it would be ideal to see the market push lower from here. Once again, this level is no longer valid because it has been tested here, but this upper one remains untested. So let's wait and see if the market can get up here. If it does, then I will be filled and we'll be looking to, well, manage the trade hopefully in our favor. If the market does extend well beyond the range, then I will have to cancel my order, obviously. Now, while that is set, let's keep an eye on the NASDAQ and let's see what's gonna happen with that. Now, once again, usually these trades have a quick resolution, whether it's in my favor or it's against me, then that's just what it is. But usually there are very, very quick, whether that means that I'm usually going to be in profit relatively quickly or I'm going to be out of the trade relatively quickly as well. Now, we have about a 2R risk reward on this potential trade. And the way that I'm going to manage my trade is if we do fail and if we do close beyond this low, then I'm going to be trailing my stop using the thrust candle principle. Hopefully we can see that. We've now seen our rejection, so the probabilities of seeing this trade fail are now much lower. But nonetheless, guys, you have to be disciplined and you have to wait for your entry point. If it doesn't fail, then it doesn't fail. And I'm not going to pay up and say, okay, let's execute now because it's going to go without me. I don't suffer from FOMO. If it does go without me, then so be it. And if it does fail and I'm stop out, then that's just part of doing business. I'm not risking anything I shouldn't risk. It's just another trade. I've had very bad weeks. I've had excellent weeks. And usually I get mediocre weeks when I'm just hanging on. Because the truth about trading is that you make the majority of your profits in a short period of time where market conditions are just perfectly aligned for the way that you trade. But more often than not, because the market is constantly changing its regime, then that is not going to happen. And instead, what you're going to see is that some trades you're going to win, others you're going to lose, and so on and so forth. So now we're getting really close to the fill, and I'm keeping an eye on my MetaTrader because I want to know exactly when I'm filled. So yeah, let's see. Would obviously be very painful if it ran without me, but once again, I do not suffer from FOMO. I'm not gonna click the trigger button if it's not the right time. And the right time for me is where I set my limit order, which is actually a little bit lower than the level because I've come to realize that if I want to keep spreads in mind, then that needs to be set. So it's not looking good for us in terms of getting a fill, but we'll wait and see what happens. For now, we're just simply living one more day to trade. And my goal is always to make sure that I'm here the next day and that I'm managing my risk effectively so that I can be here for the next day, which is obviously very, very important to me. But yeah, nothing to really be concerned. We need to be patient and see if the market is going to give us the fill that we want. Let's see, we're getting really close now. Paying attention. Okay, so now I'm filled. Now I'm officially filled. Once again, these are usually quick resolutions. So if I get stopped out relatively quickly, then so be it. But this is a trade that fits my criteria. I don't usually open two trades at the same time. That is on the NASDAQ and the US 30. So for now, we only need to be focusing on the US 30, which is optimal. So we're going to wait and see what happens. And hopefully, if we do close below this low, then we'll be able to manage our risk. Actually, this line needs to be blue for the execution. And let's just wait and see what happens with this market. My stop loss, let me make sure that this is where it needs to be, which is exactly over here. A little bit higher than this high because this is the thrust candle principle that I'm following, and it needs to be a little bit higher than that high to account for spreads. Even though my spreads are relatively tight and I have excellent market conditions, trading conditions, I still need to account a bit for spread. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, is simply taking a bit of taking its time to see what happens. I do not manage my trades in drawdown usually unless I do get a very clear structure rejection and then we close above it. At that point, yes, I would be willing to leave the trade earlier, but unless those conditions are present, then I'm just gonna hold onto my trade. Obviously, I do, however, manage my trade if it does start to move into profit. Let's activate this and let's see what happens. We have 7 minutes for the hourly closure, and about 37 minutes for NYSE. So that's gonna bring in some volume, definitely. But usually, as I mentioned, my trades have a quick resolution, whether it's good or a bad resolution. That's not for me to decide. So yeah, for now the trade is in drawdown. I will be updating you guys if I do get stopped out, or if it starts to move into profit and I can manage my risk. Anything that happens, you will be seeing it, because the purpose of this video, once again, is to showcase a typical trading day for my intraday strategy. So yeah, and I'm only gonna record this once. If it's a bad session and I lose 2 trades in a row and I have to stop trading, then that's gonna be my upload. I have no intentions of deceiving you into what trading is, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it right now, and I'm gonna be updating you guys when there's something for you guys new to see. So here's a quick update. Looks like the market tried to push lower initially, and this is not looking too good anymore. But once again, my stop loss is there for a reason, and that's what I'm gonna be following. So yeah, there's no opportunity to manage risk. The NASDAQ is still range bound, nothing to do there, and we're gonna be sticking, as we said, with the US 30. Now we also have 1 minute left for 9 a.m. where I suspect that we're probably gonna be getting stopped out with that candle, and that's gonna be sort of the trade. If that happens, we would then look to take some screenshots so that I can then journal my execution and look for one more opportunity, because I do allow myself a maximum loss of 2 trades in a row in any given day if it does happen to lose this one, obviously. So yeah, the 30-minute candle is now closed. It's not closed too bad in my opinion, for the way that I like to do things, but it's not also ideal. Ideally, we would have wanted to see it close below this green line, but nonetheless, we're still in the trade. There's still opportunity for us, and we're gonna be looking to take advantage of that. Looks like we're seeing a sharp rejection now, which doesn't mean necessarily too much, because it is the opening of the new hourly candle, so this could just be the bottom wick to drive higher. And besides that, if it does move into profit and we start closing below this low, then we'll have a finite opportunity to manage our risk. But besides that, once again, just wanted to give you the update of the hourly closure, and as more information develops, you will know it first. Another clip being recorded. We've been rejecting lower prices, so now what I expect is to potentially the market to stop me out. So once again, nobody likes getting stopped out, but it is part of doing business, and it should never crush your confidence or make you rethink your edge. It's part of playing this game, and as much as nobody likes it, it's just what's going to happen very, very often. Now, obviously, it depends. If you run a little bit of a lower risk-reward strategy, then you're going to get stopped out less frequently. But in my case, my risk-rewards usually look like this: 1 to 2s, 1 to 2.5. And let me keep an eye on my broker, just exactly when I get stopped out, to tell you. I haven't been stopped out yet, and we're gonna see if we're gonna survive the push or this is gonna be the stop out point. For now, we're still in the trade. Okay, so we're seeing a very sharp rejection, which I do like. So this is looking better now. I thought this was gonna be the clip where I stopped out, which it still can be, don't get me wrong, but it is looking more promising now. Might have been the top wick for the hourly candle to drive lower. And remember, we do have 20 minutes for NYSE, so if we do manage to survive or be in profits, then NYSE volume opening can drive price to where it needs to go faster. But for now, still in the trade. I'm actually going to keep the clip running for a bit longer just to see if there is an outcome, because it looks like volume is picking up, and when volume is picking up, well, results do come faster. Now, in the meantime, let's check on the NASDAQ, which is still making its way to this low. Once again, this scenario here would be a trade for me, but for that to happen, I cannot be in the US 30 trade. And as you know, I'm still in the US 30 trade. So if it does set up while I'm in the trade, then I will have to pass on the NASDAQ potential short position. But if I'm out of the trade, then you won't see me hesitate taking this position, even though I might have taken a loss previously. Because you should never let your your previous results influence how you're going to be approaching the next trade. It's just a trade, and new ones will emerge day in and day out. There's no need in essentially dwelling too much on losses or trades that have been missed or whatever it may be. Let's check on the higher time frame for a bit. The daily is still bullish, but that's okay. It's not too concerning for me. And yeah, the daily is still bullish. The 30 minutes still close bearish with the rate of this high, which is great. So if we do get the setup here, I want to short this market. But for that, we need to be out of the US 30 position, which is still hanging in between my entry point and my stop loss. And we're going to see what happens with this position. There's not much to commentate. I wish the market would make its mind up and either get me out of the trade or move into profit to where I can manage my risk. But sometimes this is just what it is. You get stuck and there's nothing you can do, pretty much. So yeah, it looks like we're still hanging in this range where there's no decision, which is unfortunate, but what the market decided to give us today. Once again, just to give you the context, the idea is simple. Okay, we've rejected and closed this fair value gap. We've accepted below this level on the 1 minute time frame. We've not only accepted, but we've tested a naked wick with a thrust candle from the other side a few candles later. That to me is my trigger point, and my target is this low, which is nothing but a sell side pool of liquidity that I do think has a decent chance of being hit during my session. Once again, you could argue, well, why are you not targeting this low? And while I wouldn't say that's necessarily wrong, what I'm going to tell you is that there's a lower chance that is going to happen than this happening. And I need to strike a balance between my win rate and my risk reward. And I've come to realize over the years that shooting for these really big risk to reward ratios is really, really inconsistent. And you're going to have periods where you're going to be losing trade after trade after trade, or even sometimes you're going to be massively in profit, and it's going to end up turning around and stopping you out. And for me, the perfect balance seems to be around the 1 to 2s, which is a perfect risk reward ratio for me. Now, it doesn't mean that it needs to be for you, but it's just what works for me and makes sense to do. So yeah, we're gonna see what happens with the US 30 position. Looks like it's climbing slowly back up again, but still overall stuck between here and here. And it could do this, or it could just simply do this, or it could do this, right? We don't really know what's gonna happen over here. We just need to wait and see what the market's gonna develop. and if I'm eventually going to get stopped out. Now, I don't want to necessarily make another cut just because I do feel that there could be a quick resolution. If it doesn't, then well, I will record back in about 15 minutes, which is going to be the NYSE. But nonetheless, actually, let's make a cut, and I'll let you guys know when a new update is present. Well, it seems like the market is trying to push lower. We are reacting at the previous low, which is obviously expected, and obviously as well not ideal. But we're now moving into profit, which is better than the previous position, and we just need to wait and see what's going to happen. If we do close below this low, as I've mentioned now multiple times, then that would be an opportunity to manage my risk. But first, we need to see that happen. Now, we were lucky that we didn't get stopped out there, and that is why I always leave a few points of breathing room beyond the area where my supposed stop loss needs to go. Let's check on the NASDAQ, which is also trying to make its way lower. But that's not something that we're going to be paying too much attention to just because, well, I'm already in this US 30 position that is now moving the way it's supposed to move, at least in my opinion. Now, obviously, we could still see this easily, but now we have 10 minutes for the NYSE, and the better our position looks for the NYSE, the more probabilities we're going to have for our trade to eventually hit our target. So yeah, we're gonna wait and see what happens with this. For now, I'm not too concerned, and this is just another trade. Okay, so now we have 1 more minute till NYSE. Now, usually my trades don't play around like this long, but this is the case this time, and we're gonna see if NYSE is gonna be a good thing or if it's gonna, well, stop us out, which could be as well. Now, I expect volume in 30 seconds to be seen in the market, and we're gonna see what happens. Now, obviously, the impact of slippage is always there, and we have to pay attention to that, but it looks like now we're gonna be in profit. So what I'm gonna do, okay, so the market is spiking up and down, which is not ideal. But what I want to do is, if we do close below this low and 1 more consecutive candle does the same, then I will be moving my stop above this candle. This is NYSE, and looks like my plan is not going to be fulfilled because we do see the market pushing higher. Well, at least for now. I mean, price action isn't usually that hectic. Now I'm trading on the 1 minute chart, which, well, makes sense for this to happen from time to time, but it's usually not that erratic. The NASDAQ is on its way lower. This trade obviously has been missed. Anyways, I wouldn't have gotten an entry because I would need to see this candle close. Then I would need to see another candle close as well below this green line, and then the next one would be the entry point. But as of now, looks like we're going to be getting stopped out, and now we're out of the trade. Let me see if there has been any slippage, and the answer is no. Okay, so I haven't really been slipped. It's usually not that volatile in terms of going up and down. There's nothing here in terms of news. Let's check the potential breaking news, which we don't see anything of. So yeah, now we're out of the trade for the US 30. We were in profit for a bit, mostly in drawdown. Then we saw a rejection, and the NYSE came in and pushed the market in the other direction. So we're going to be watching the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, unfortunately, looks like it's going to tap into the next area, and we're going to see if there's going to be opportunities for us. Now, if we want to sell this market, we need to wait for this candle to close, and after that, if we do see a pullback into this low, then we could use that as a potential entry point, and my trade would look something like this. I would go back to this thrust candle here, more than likely. That's going to be not optimal. Actually, I'm going to go back to this thrust candle here. You see this one over here, and yeah, try to target over there. So let me go ahead and place my order just in case we do get the fail. And it's not me trying to revenge trade. We spoke about this potential trade from the beginning of the session. So let me place my limit order there. And let's see if we can get a fail. Now, if this trade does lose as well, then obviously the session is going to be finished. And that's going to be my trading week, which is still going to be okay, although it's not going to be the best. Okay, so now we're failed. And we're going to see if this trade works out, or if we're also going to be getting stopped out in this position as well. But now we're failed. And let's see if this is going to be a quicker or not so quick resolution. Now I'm rethinking where my take profit should be. As I said, well, where it currently is okay, but if it does end up going there, then we're going to be taking profit. So yeah, now I'm in the NASDAQ position, and when you're scalping, then these things happen where you have to constantly adapt. The US30 was a good idea to get out of the way of, and that's just how it is. Sometimes you have to be really, really cautious. Now, how I'm going to be managing my risk is simple. As of now, there's nothing to do. We're very much in profit, but this could change any second, because when you're scalping on the 1 minute or intraday trading, then conditions change relatively quickly. Now, as this candle closes, if it does close the way it seems to be closing, okay, so it looks like now we're gonna be reaching in to take profit, hopefully. Otherwise, well, my stop loss is gonna be here. We still have about 1 more minute, and there we go. Okay, so that's take profit hit on this position. That's just take profit hit. Now, it could run further, but that's okay. Now we have a winning trade and a losing trade. The US30 position looks like wow, like this is insane. Now, am I gonna be looking for another position? Potentially. But this was a relatively quick resolution on the second trade, which is great. And I've already taken 2 trades on a Friday. Let me make sure that this is recording, because it would be okay. So yeah, it is recording. Now let me break down further the NASDAQ trade. Even though you see it push lower, I'm okay with that. That's the target that I wanted. I got my points, and I'm out of the market. Sometimes trades are fast, as I told you, and the US30 scenario we saw is, well, not too typical. Now, the NASDAQ trade is simple. This is a RAID acceptance trade, and we can go through what that means. A 30-minute predefined level in market mapping is being broken and accepted above below. Okay, let's go step by step. This is our 30-minute predefined level that we spoke about. Okay, we denoted this level, and we said we could try to look for shorts below this area. Now, with that said, that is the 30-minute predefined level. Now, why is it a level? It's because it's a swing point. You can see that the market moved into this area and then moved away. Now, what else happened is that we cleared this high. So people that were long above this high here on the left-hand side are being, well, taken on a ride to the other side, which is painful for them. And that's something that we want to capitalize on. So, that's the 30-minute predefined level. Now, there needs to be space in between the breakout and the test of the level for it to be valid. Now, is there space? Well, let's investigate this. The answer is yes, because look, this is the breakout level, this big black candle, and the next candle doesn't immediately test it. You can see this low here. On the next candle, we push a little bit lower and we don't test it. So that becomes our space criteria for filled. I will wait for a previous naked wick test that then leads to a closure above below that level again. We do see that as well. The entry will be the untested wick that forms the space. Let's go through this. We see the untested wick here. We see the space in between the break and the return. Now, we obviously returned. I got filled because I always place it just a little bit under the level, because there were instances like this one where in the past I wouldn't been filled for what is less than a point, and it's really painful. So I learned the hard way that I need to make sure that that is taken care of. And yeah, so that is the position. Let's carry on reading this. Market execution was not the case because I placed a limit order. The stop loss was placed above or below prior thrust candle that led to the rate. Now, where was my stop loss? My stop loss was above this thrust candle. Once again, I'm not using the swing candle principle. I'm using the thrust candle principle to determine where my stop loss needs to go. So I placed my stop loss above this thrust, and the trade was a literal 2-minute trade resolution, which puts us at 0.7 R up for the day, which is essentially great for a Friday. I mean, I wasn't expecting too much. I will admit that the price action today has been quite hefty, but there might still be opportunity for us to take trades. But for now, I wanted to really take my time to explain the trade, because this is a standard and regular trade, just like the US 30. As you see, there was no difference, right? We broke below this level. We accepted below on the 1 minute with this movement. We then returned to it with space. I took the trade. My stop loss was above the thrust, and well, NYSE came in, volume came in. That is why it's so important to keep timing in mind. And we saw this big push and eventually got stopped out of the position. So yeah, that is how a typical trading session for me looks like. Now, is there still opportunity? Yes, I want to say so, but it is a Friday. We're moving into really deep into the New York session now, and what I don't want to do is having to hold the trade overnight. That would not be something that I'm prepared to do with my scalping strategy. And that is something that we need to remember. Now, this video here hopefully showcases exactly the reality of trading, right? Because it's actually a pretty good example. And as I said, this is my first time recording this. I have no intentions of making you believe that I win every trade or that I never lose, because reality is I don't. I lose a lot of trades and I win a lot of trades. And as I said, the contrast between this trade and this trade is very, very noticeable, right? We see that the US 30 position took a lot of time. It was a lot of back and forth. I was accepting to be stopped out here, but we were lucky because, yes, sometimes luck does play a role in trading. And we were lucky that the market then decided to, well, turn around for a bit. We went into profit. I was really, really close to be able to manage my risk with this candle if it had closed below this blue line. But that never happened. NYSE came in. I told you I was expecting volume, and luckily we did not get slipped at all, which is great. Now, at the same time that was happening, you saw that I didn't hesitate in executing the NASDAQ position, because it was also a pre-planned trade. You saw the same swing low system to determine the level, the same idea of the market breaking below it, and essentially what is testing from the other side on a naked wick, which once again, some of you will call this area a breaker block, which I wouldn't say it's necessarily wrong, but that's sort of the point, right? The trade executed, we essentially waited for a resolution. The resolution came in quickly, and now if the market moves over here and goes 200 points lower, I'm not going to be concerned, because my decision was made that I needed to target this area over here, and I got that in essentially a minute, so I cannot complain. Now, with the -1R on the US 30 and the plus, what is it exactly, around 1.7 R on the NASDAQ, that puts us positive on the day for our trading. And this is exactly what I try to do every day. As I mentioned, some trades take longer, others don't. And we just have to adapt and make sure that we're able to survive another day in the market, so that you can capitalize when conditions are great for your strategy and you can make a lot of money. But more often than not, every week will be not too great, not too worse. Sometimes I have weeks where I lose money, other times I have weeks where I make money. But overall, it's very, very consistent. So yeah, let me check the recording, because I don't want to make this excessively long. But I will update you guys when there's a new potential setup setting up, or if I'm actually going to be some for the day. Remember that I have till 11 to keep making trading decisions. I haven't lost 2 trades in a row, so I still have the potential to take more trades, and we'll see what happens. It looks like we've reached the end of my session. I'm not going to be taking any further trades. We're on a Friday. We've already taken 2, but you can see that you do get a lot of trades if you do execute this strategy. Looks like we were wrong on US30. Thankfully, we got out of the way quickly before the push. And to be honest, there might still be opportunity for you to look for a potential rate rejection break here, whereas we break above, close below. We see a market structure shift on the lower time frame, which would potentially look like a break of this low with displacement into a pullback into a naked wick. But once again, that is a topic for another potential session if I ever do record another one. We were wrong there. The NASDAQ, we were right, and although it is pushing a little bit lower, hasn't really moved too much. So yeah, thanks everyone for making it this far, if you did make it this far. And if you want me to record more raw sessions where I show you everything from the moment I come to the charts to watching the news, seeing the impact of news, managing trades and all the rest of it, I wished I would have been able to show you a little bit more about trade management, but I wasn't able to because, well, the market didn't allow me to do so. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.